Hello and welcome to this brief presentation on the Kaufman Assessment Battery for Children 2nd Edition Normative Update, referred to as the KABC-II NU. I am Dr. Anne Marie Kimball and I'll be the narrator for this overview of the KABC-II NU. Here is the agenda. I will provide a brief overview, talk about the need for the normative update, the standardization, and then the reliability and validity. Dr. Alan S. Kaufman and Dr. Nadine L. Kaufman are the authors of the original KABC and its revisions. They have been at Yale University's Child Studies Center in the School of Medicine since 1997 as clinical professor of psychology and lecturer on the clinical faculty, respectively. Together, they combine expertise in psychometrics, test construction, and clinical assessment. The KABC-II NU updates the normative data for the existing KABC-II. It maintains the strengths of the KABC-II and provides updated normative information that reflects the changing population of children in the United States. The KABC-II NU manual supplement provides detailed information on the new standardization sample and includes the new normative tables. The KABC-II was published in 2004. It is best described as a culturally fair, individually administered measure of cognitive ability. The normative update for the KABC-II will be published in March 2018. The KABC-II NU is an individually administered measure of cognitive abilities and processing skills for children and adolescents. The results can provide an in-depth analysis of strengths and needs, including school readiness information and other diagnostics with ability estimates across a wide range of domains. The KABC-II is a C-level assessment. It is used mainly in schools and also in some private practice settings. The administration is paper and pencil. Scoring can be manual or web-based using Pearson's Q Global platform. The need for a normative update for the KABC-II was informed by several factors. First, because U.S. population demographics, curriculum, and educational practices have changed over time, the use of older normative samples introduces systematic error into the diagnostic process and may negatively influence decision-making. The Kaufman Assessment Battery for Children 2nd Edition Normative Update, KABC-II NU, provides updated normative information for the KABC-II collected on a present-day sample of children and adolescents. Second, in addition to demographic changes, technology has become deeply integrated into the fabric of American daily life as rapid innovations have led to an era of profound digital transformation across the globe. The new KABC-II normative information reflects the changes that have occurred within U.S. population demographics, cultural trends, and educational policies and practices over the past 14 years since the publication of the KABC-II. And third, in addition to capturing a more representative sample of children, research also indicates that older norms produce inflated scores on intelligence measures. The Flynn Effect refers to a consistent pattern of longitudinal change that occurs in human intelligence over time. Researchers have noted that from the moment a test is published, the gap between the norms and the true intellectual level of the population begins to grow, and this gap continues to widen until new norms are established. According to the Standards for Educational and Psychological Testing, AERA, APA, and MCME 2014, test publishers are responsible for providing updated norms for an instrument with sufficient frequency to allow for accurate and appropriate score interpretation. However, test users are responsible for avoiding interpretation of out-of-date norms to ensure accurate and appropriate score interpretations. Based on the Flynn Effect, cognitive tests with older norms may yield IQs and other global indexes that are spuriously high, and this spurious inflation of scores becomes more pronounced as the norms get increasingly out of date. The updated norms mitigate the impact of the Flynn Effect on the KABC-II NU scores used for diagnostic decision-making and intervention planning. The same KABC-II easels, manual, stimulus, manipulative materials, and record forms will be utilized with the KABC-II NU. If you are a current KABC-II user, you will have all of the materials you need to administer the subtests. The only new item you will need is the KABC-II NU Normative Update Manual Supplement if you plan to use manual scoring. The KABC-II NU Norm Update Supplement will come with a sticker you can place on the KABC-II manual to remind you to utilize the updated norms from the KABC-II NU Norm Update Supplement. The KABC-II NU Norm Update Supplement is currently available for pre-order and will be available in early 2018. The KABC-II offers 3 age-based core batteries that vary slightly in their subtest and scale composition. The 3 global scores, Fluid Crystallized Index, FCI, Mental Processing Index, MPI, and Nonverbal Index, NVI, are available for all ages, although the subtests that compose the indexes vary across ages. The scale composition of the 5 separate scales, as opposed to global scales, varies considerably across ages. No separate scale indexes are available for the battery administered to children age 3. The battery designed for children ages 4 to 6 years provides 4 scale indexes: Sequential GSM, Simultaneous GV, Learning GLR, and Knowledge GC. The battery administered to children and adolescents ages 7 to 18 years includes these 4 scales, plus the additional Planning GF scale. Planning GF provides a more comprehensive measure of higher-level planning and fluid reasoning skills that emerge more prominently during the school-age years. The KABC-II was developed on a dual theoretical foundation that draws upon the clinical and neuropsychological framework that inspired Luria to explain brain-behavior relationships and the psychometric tradition that spawned the Cattell-Horn-Carroll CHC theory. The KABC-II scales can be described using Luria terms as well as CHC terms. Both theories have evolved since the publication of the KABC-II. The KABC-II NU updated the theoretical foundations in order to place the KABC-II NU scores in context and provide guidance to users. Like the KABC-II, the KABC-II NU is grounded in 2 theoretical models, namely the Cattell-Horn-Carroll CHC psychometric theory of cognitive abilities and Luria's neuropsychological theory of processing. This dual theoretical foundation provides the flexibility to allow the examiner to select an interpretive model based on the child's background and reason for referral. However, it is important to note that the 2 models do not exist in isolation. Most current research on intelligence seeks to find relationships between cognitive abilities, neuropsychological processing, and academic skills. At the time the KABC-II was published, the CHC theory included 10 broad factors with approximately 70 narrow abilities. In 2012, Schneider and McGrew refined the theory by articulating a 16-factor model containing more than 80 to 90 narrow abilities. The theory was further modified in 2015 to include 10 broad abilities and approximately 35 narrow abilities, although the precise number of broad and narrow abilities depends on each researcher's perspectives and preferences. As for Luria's theory, over the past decade, research in neuroscience has identified 10 psychological processes that are fundamental for learning academic skills and knowledge: attention, auditory processing, executive processes, fluid reasoning, long-term memory processes, oral language processes, phonological processing, processing speed, visual-spatial processing, and working memory. Because Luria's 3 functional units are primarily descriptive concepts designed to guide applied clinical evaluation practices, neuropsychologists have transformed the Lurian blocks from general concepts to domains with more specificity. As a general rule, intelligence tests are not designed to serve as neuropsychological measures. However, neuropsychological approaches to interpretation can be valuable in examining the relationship between psychological processes and the acquisition of language and academic skills. The KABC-II NU was designed as a clinical instrument and can be used to assess the cognitive abilities of children and adolescents for psychological, clinical, psychoeducational, and neuropsychological evaluations. It is used in evaluations for SLD, known or suspected neurological disorders, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, intellectual disabilities, developmental delays, speech-language difficulties, emotional behavioral disorders, autism, reading math disabilities, intellectual giftedness, and hearing impairment. Refer to the KABC-II manual for data on these clinical samples. In addition, it is widely promoted as a fair assessment of children and adolescents from African American, Hispanic, Native American, and Asian American backgrounds. The KABC-II NU can be used along with the KTEA-3 to identify a pattern of strengths and weaknesses. The tools can also be used with cross-battery assessment. Because the content and structure of the KABC-II NU test remains identical to the KABC-II, Examiners will need to refer to the KABC-II manual for information on how to administer the subtests. The normative information is based on a national sample of 700 children and adolescents collected from January through July 2017. The sample is representative of the U.S. English-speaking population ages 3 years 0 months through 18 years 11 months. The standardization sample also included cases that were collected as part of validity studies during the standardization phases of the Kaufman Test of Educational Achievement 3rd edition and the Wechsler Intelligence Scale for Children 5th edition. A stratified sampling plan ensured that the normative sample included representative proportions of children according to the selected demographic variables. An analysis of data gathered in the U.S. Census Bureau's American Community Survey 2015 provided the basis for stratification along with the following variables within each age group: gender, race, ethnicity, parent education level, and geographic region. The manual presents detailed demographic information for the normative samples and the U.S. population according to age group, gender, race, ethnicity, parent education level, and geographic region. The data indicate a close correspondence between the normative sample and the 2015 U.S. Census proportions. Representative proportions of children from various special education classifications were included in the normative sample to reflect the U.S. population as a whole and provide variance of cognitive ability. Reliabilities of the general scale indexes are quite high, averaging in the mid to upper 90s for the FCI and MPI and in the low to mid 90s for the NBI. In general, the reliabilities are as high or higher than the original KABC-II reliabilities. This finding supports the consistency of the instrument over time. Given that the KABC-II NU data were collected using the original KABC-II materials with no changes to either the test content or structure, the validity analysis of the KABC-II NU begins with a review of current intercorrelation studies, followed by an examination of the relationship between test scores and other related measures such as the WIS-5 and the KTEA-3. Users of the KABC-II NU are encouraged to review the research literature on the KABC-II over the past 15 years to find additional support for the reliability and validity of the KABC-II instrument. What are the advantages of the KABC-II NU? A dual theoretical foundation using the Luria neuropsychological model or the Cattell-Horn-Carroll CHC approach helps you obtain the data you need for each individual you test. Rooted in neuropsychological theory, with a strong emphasis on processing and useful qualitative indicators on each subject, facilitators and inhibitors, allow for meaningful error analysis. Cultural fairness of the test makes it appropriate for assessing diverse groups, especially bilingual students and English language learners. Age range for ages 3 through 18 allows you to use one test for preschool, elementary, and high school children. If you would like further information or if you have questions, please contact your Pearson consultant. You can also email gloria.mchugh@pearson.com.